all our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, including our Vice Chair of the KEWASNet Governing Council and the Treasurer of the Governing Council of KEWASNet. On behalf of the constituency of civil society organizations present and represented, I salute you and I thank you for honoring our invitation today. Ladies and gentlemen, today we get to launch our 8th edition of its kind, which we have since dubbed The Voice. And it builds on a well-established tradition to provide insights and assess the CSO performance and offer recommendations to inform discussions, amongst other things, on the SDG ambition and the delivery on it, and particularly to help guide improved reporting and implementation, even as we are in the midpoint of the SDG or the 2030 agenda. As you'll get to hear and read later, this report on the CSO performance was contributed by the highest number of CSOs in the history of our reporting on CSO performance. And this marks a consistent increase in the number of contributors to the report. This by no means represents the entirety of the CSO constituency, but it provides a pointer to the growth and the continued confidence of many more actors on this report, and really an inspiration for us to reach out to many more to contribute to this report. We anticipate that the trend of growth will be sustained to a point of absoluteness, where we can refer to the voice with authority, with credibility, and certainty of inclusivity.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for this invitation to join you today as KEWASNet shares their sector performance report. I'm grateful to be here on behalf of the USAID Kenya WASH team, and we actually find that it is coming, it's very timely, coming after the launch of the strategic plan, KEWASNet strategic plan, which happened last year in October, which we also attended. And we find that it aligns very well even with the core values that were ascribed to in the strategic plan. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I belabor the point, but I still will, by saying that governance is core to the Kenyan wash sector. Governance has carried us through the water sector reforms, through the different legal and institutional frameworks review that were required, and governance also needs to be at the core of the work as we progress with the implementation with all the sector reforms that we undertook to do, but also as we begin evaluating our performance against those reforms. As such, we find that this sector performance report, where the CSOs are taking the opportunity to look inward at their own performance, we find that it upholds the core, core values of KEWASNet strategic plan, as well as what is required for governance.
I had been asked to talk about the status of water supply in Kenya. We'll begin by, first of all, trying to reflect in the past. And I think that is very key. We need to reflect in the past so that we are sure that we are moving forward in a proper direction. Matters of water reforms began in 1965. And I think many of us here probably were not in the world. And the government was actually able to actualize that through what we call the sessional paper number 1 of 1965. They were calling it African Socialism and its Application in Planning in Kenya. That specific paper actually focused on 3 areas, dealing with poverty, ignorance, and disease. You'll call the late President Mo used to say, ujinga, kufutilia mbali ujinga, or something of the sort, you see? But most important in that paper, it underpinned the importance of water in the following areas: conservation of the resource, expansion of water supplies, and the proper use of water resources, and the need for skilled manpower in the sector. Today, 58 years down the line, we are still struggling or grappling to resolve these issues. These issues are still with us. We came forward to 1999. In 1999, we came again with the sessional paper number 1 of 1999. That was the National Policy on Water Resource Management. And this one again, it focused on water resource management, the same thing that were there in 1965. Water supply and water supply and sewerage development. That is the expansion of water resources, the expansion of water supplies in 1965. It also focused on institutional arrangement, but now it brought in a new dimension, financing of the sector. So it was basically the same thing that were there in 1965 that were uplifted, but now the issue of financing came in. And as we all know, that was put into operation through the Water Act 202. Let's move fast forward. 2010, a new constitution comes in. Again, it changes the dynamics in terms of water service provision, and the water services were devolved. Why are we doing all these reforms? It's all in an attempt to be able to perform better and to ensure that everybody, has access to water. But most of all, our Constitution 2010 embedded the right to water in the Constitution. I think we need to reflect on that. What that means, it doesn't matter where you live, irrespective of your location or your state and society, you are entitled to clean, safe water and in adequate quantities.
I'm happy to hear from the opening remarks and the keynote speeches that as CSOs, we have continued to play a complementary role to the government in terms of service provision. And so we should not take it lightly that we are in this space, and we should really look forward to ensuring that we are putting our house in order even as we do this particular important role. And even as we look at this particular space, we need to reflect on our core mandate. And we need to reflect on the fact that we are representing the community and we're also safeguarding our environment. Because these are the main entities that put us where we are so that we can change and seek ways of bringing in the important and needed change. I am happy to see that we have a number of CSOs in the room that have remained resilient, that have stood the test of time and continue to operate through the given frameworks that exist within this particular sector. And so even as you look at the shrinking financial space with regards to certain shrinking space in terms of funding, it's good for us to see, do we fold or do we regenerate? Do we come together and build a better, stronger network? And so we are grateful that KEWASNET has provided us with such a vehicle.
So this is the CSO's Annual Water and Sanitation Sector Performance Report of 2020-2021. Thank you very much. Here is the link to the report. Feel free to click and have a look after this.
I didn't see much of partnerships with other sectors, like in the health. And for me, the example I've given of Kiambu and many others, of course, if probably the CSOs in the wash sector would partner with related other, organizations, like for example in the public health, to see how they can, create more synergy and have a stronger voice when they are presenting this evidence to the policymakers.
While, of course, acknowledging that CSOs are autonomous entities, I feel like it would be interesting, maybe in future reports, to demonstrate with very explicit indices the extent to which they align with national and county strategies and approaches.
Looking at the funding streams of the CSOs, I was looking for something on coordination, something on partnerships. So I don't know if there are CSOs who are funding that, but also if you reflect in the sector, that is missing. We are not able to talk to each other at all the levels, national and the county level.
I'll start with the issue of coordination and partnership. I should have presented something on that. So we found out that many CSOs are working in silos, as you rightfully put it. So that's another area that needs to be addressed. For CSOs to work together, collaborate, and so that we avoid duplication of efforts. Because when somebody or an institution is doing something that another doesn't know, then you find yourself duplicating efforts. So yes, there is need for us to look into partnerships because working in silos came out strongly.
From last year, government seems to have been creating more room for acceptability of civil society reporting, particularly through the National Bureau of Statistics, where they invited civil society for alternative, a mechanism for alternative reporting. This is now something that they are trying to adopt, and we want to explore and see how that mechanism can also help civil society organizations to contribute to the national reporting process.
Joining you means that the ministry appreciates your contribution into this particular space, the WASH. Two, it considers this constituency as a very key stakeholder to support the government agenda to provide WASH services to the citizens and ensure that we leave no one behind. And thirdly, we come here because we want to confirm our commitment to the space of accountability and transparency, which we believe will be very key as we move forward in the development of the water sector. Over the years, various reports, WASREB reports, independent reports, The Voice, have always come up to a conclusion that going forward, the conversation around governance will be very key for us to be able to meet the SDG goals. So this forum being one of the instruments that KWASNet and the partners come to account for their role will always be very key.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, a clap. Pongezi. Yes, there we launch. Voice 2020-2021. There it comes to be. Yes, makofi mazuri. Yes, mighty and clap. And there it is. Okay, let's go.
We stand here very humbled by your presence here, but also really the feedback that we have received on this day. I think it is on such an occasion that as a network of civil society organizations, we are able to reflect on what our mandate is, what our purpose is, and how other stakeholders in the sector reflect on what we do and what our potential is. I thank everyone for making the time and take time to read the report in its entirety. For those who have been here have received a copy, but those who are joining us virtually, the report is now uploaded on our website, and you can find it there on the KEWASnet website. So I thank you and wish you a very good day ahead.